approval of the minutes from the meeting of January 13th, 2021. Have we a motion to do so?
So moved.
Moriarty moves. Second.
Second.
Second, Hisson, quicker on the buzzer. Any discussion, any corrections, amendments, anything else? Very well.
That Dan Moriarty that's so competitive.
Let's get down the roll. Moriarty.
Yes.
Hisson.
Yes.
Sewo.
Yay.
Conyers.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Minutes are approved and adopted. All right. Sarah, what have we on the plate today?
The first item was continued from last month. This is at 240 West 2nd Avenue. It's for an exterior building alteration. The applicant would like to install James Hardy clapboard siding on top of the existing asbestos siding. They'd like the siding to have a 7-inch exposure and a 4-inch trim, and they'd like to remove the decorative fish scale siding in the gable ends and replace it with a Hardy fish scale. So this was reviewed and continued at the January 2021 hearing. Commissioners requested additional photos of the current siding conditions and of the wood beneath the tar paper. So the applicant did submit some additional photos. I reviewed the photos, and staff's opinion is that the condition of the siding appears to be poor and could warrant replacement. But looking at the photos of the fish scales, it didn't seem that there was significant damage there that was irreparable. Likely repair and scraping them and repainting them could help with some in-kind replacement if necessary. Staff's recommendation is to approve application PB 2101-008 with conditions. Those conditions being that the new siding be smooth with no faux wood grain and with a 4-inch exposure to meet the Victorian Village guidelines. That the windows, doors, corner boards, and trim work should be built out to maintain a 3-dimensional appearance, and that the fish scales are retained and repaired rather than replaced. This is based on the Victorian Village guidelines for siding. Within those guidelines, it states that what's appropriate is siding with the appearance of shiplap or clapboard in 3-inch or 4-inch slats, depending on the profile of the original. Smooth rather than textured siding, and that window, door, corner boards, and other trim work is built out to maintain a 3-dimensional appearance. It also states that it's not appropriate to cover or remove special details like fish scales, especially in gables. That when new siding is installed over old, failure to build out doors and window frames is not appropriate. Siding slats wider than 4 inches, with rare exceptions justified by the original siding, is not appropriate, and that textured siding rather than smooth is not appropriate. This is also based on the standards for alteration, which state that the removal or alteration of historic material shall be avoided whenever possible. Craftsmanship examples should be treated with sensitivity, and features should be repaired rather than replaced. I will note that they did submit a photo showing the width or the exposure of the siding beneath the tar paper, and I believe that's a photo in there. If you could scroll to it, Belkis. It's, I think, 7 inches, so that's something to consider for the commissioners as well. And the applicant is here to speak more to this too.
Yeah, before we turn it over to the applicant, is this lap siding under here?
Let me see.
From what you're able to determine, or what?
Yeah, it doesn't look like a clapboard siding beneath it.
It's just flush?
It's pretty flush, yeah.
Odd.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I'm wondering if it was ever meant to be exposed. I don't know.
Exactly. All right. Do we have someone from the applicant here?
TJ Johnson with Feasel.
Mr.
I believe that.
Johnson, where
Good
are
seeing
you?
you guys again.
Pardon?
Good seeing you guys again.
All right. Good to see you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Well, sorry, I got my iPad and I'm trying to hold it.
There you are. We can see you now.
Nice.
You said swear.
All right. I do. I swear.
Very well. What do you have to add to this?
So just based that the wood underneath there is slat board. It's not exposed. It wasn't an old siding. It looks like they just put the asbestos over top of it. So the whatever was underneath there at some point is not currently there.
Yeah.
Fish scale wise, that would be your determination. There's a couple of loose pieces, and my only thing, and I know it's an approval of the 4-inch exposure, but the 2 doors down, and I know it was probably a new build, are both 6-inch exposure. So I didn't know if there was wiggle room with the going to a 6-inch exposure instead of a 4-inch.
Usually not, all things being equal, we prefer to follow the guidelines.
Understood.
I'm not sure what we're talking about that has a 6-inch exposure down the street and how recent it is.
Yeah, so it's both James Hardy. We checked it out on the auditor's website. Looked like they were either refurbished or rebuilt in 2008 and 2010. So I can't speak on that. So I don't know what the condition, what your rules were at that point.
All right. Do you have anything else to present?
Just on the basis that we know it's not the original siding underneath.
All right, commissioners, any questions, discussion?
Well, I mean, I think looks like they've done their homework and they've provided what they needed to provide. What I would say is I would go ahead with the required format for the Hardy board. And the only thing that I would say is I think we need to keep the fish scales and repair them, not replace them with the Hardy board also.
So are you in agreement with the conditions staff set out for the approval, Jeff?
Yep, absolutely.
Does anyone else have anything to add, pro or con, that idea?
This is Sean. I would agree, with staff. I would agree with Jeff from that regard. There was just a couple, as you kind of look at the images, I just had a couple questions. Last time, when we're talking about changing the siding, I guess I just want to try to get some clarity on the extent of the scope of work, meaning that are we getting into the fascias? Are we getting into, changing gutters? Is that part of the scope of work, or is it stopping, at that soffit line, that's been determined?
That is a good question. So we, as far as right now, as of right now, yes, we are replacing the fascia and soffits with James Hardy product.
Okay. So just kind of given, that clarification, I think that's something that we need to have a better understand, given what are the existing elements in those transitions and what are going to be the new elements. So I think that that's some clarity that maybe can be provided to staff as part of that. I think it'd still be considerate to provide some understanding of what the build out is going to do in that relationship to the existing windows and how that's going to be performed. I mean, obviously those are details that can be provided to staff, but I think it's relevant, just kind of given this, the scope of work. The last one is just trying to understand, or I should say there's two more, I'm sorry, is number one is the flared, there's kind of a flared kind of belt. I didn't pick up one the last month, and I apologize, but in some of the images, you can see it. Yeah, on the images on the screen, it doesn't necessarily look like it runs the entire building from that standpoint. It's on the front, it's on the main side elevation, but I can't see it on the rear. And so how are you planning on addressing that with the new approach?
On the rear there, where there's like the addition that they made on the back.
I guess what I'm looking at is that there's kind of the siding itself. Like if you look at the images on the screen between the first and the second floor, it looks like there's a strong dark line that's running horizontal. It looks
so that's
like
called a band board.
Flared.
Yeah, so that's called a band board. Yeah. So what it is it divides two separate. Back in the day when they used to use asbestos, it was a product that they did to divide it to split the two floors from each other. Um, so it will pop out a little bit more just because that's actually like a 1x6 or 1x8 on there. So it's not necessarily like a like a dimension to it. Well, it is a dimension to it, but it's not going to. It's just an aesthetic thing that they used to do with siding projects.
So you're just going to build around that?
No, we'll go. No, I mean we'll put a band back over top of it because we are going over top of the asbestos. So I mean we also have to install it properly. So there still will be some type of depth to it. It's just it probably won't look the same exact aesthetically.
I've got a dumb question, which is, what's the point in building over the asbestos? Why not just pry it off and connect directly this wood?
It's about a $60,000 charge.
Aha. That's like real money.
Just an
Okay.
extra layer of insulation, Jack. Might as well
Pardon?
keep it. Just an extra layer of insulation. It's better to keep it on than throw it in a landfill.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean it's literally like if you've ever seen an asbestos removal, it's like the scene from ET. Like there's a big bubble around the house. The guys are in hazmat outfits.
When I did a house that was covered in this stuff and just hired a bunch of people from the J&J Tavern at 6 in the morning.
Hey, that's what you got to do sometimes.
That was very inexpensive. I forget about our current regulatory environment. Okay.
I just had one. I had one more, Jack.
Go ahead.
If you go to an image, which is the front elevation, which is probably going to be maybe the south elevation. If we kind of keep going or keep scrolling through right there, perfect. And if we kind of zoom in, if we just kind of zoom in on those windows. So I'm looking at the windows that actually address the south, which are the smaller windows on the south. At this bay, these south windows are kind of, I'm going to use the term crowded. So typically, when you would do, your reciting, you actually have corner boards, and so you're going to have a corner board at the rear or the interior. You're going to have a corner board at the exterior edge or that corner. I guess
that
how
is
are
correct.
you planning on addressing, the window trims at those locations?
So it's going to be trimmed out in 1x4. So you are correct that that's a great, Hardy board. So so with James Hardy, you do have to have corner post to make it for the seamless, the way it's tied in. So there will be a 1x4 in both of those corners. So they will be pretty close to flush on that far. If you're looking at the smaller windows.
Yeah. I guess all I'm pointing out is, again, I think that we're going down the right path. I just think that, for this thing, there just needs to be some additional details. I feel it needs to be kind of worked through and shared, with maybe staff and maybe a subcommittee in terms of working through some of these. You know what I mean? So there's just a lot of small things. I think the job is going to look great in the end. But I think we need to kind of get ahead of these small things so that way we can make the right decisions before the job starts. And that's not necessarily just for us. It's just for, the end result to come out the way you guys want it to.
How do we want to describe the additional information for staff's review?
I would say details of windows, details of corner boards and their relationship to windows, details of the belt,
soffits
and skirt, and then details and understanding of where the limits are in relationship to the scope of work regarding the soffits and fascias. And they can bring back that kind of package of those particular details for a little bit further review.
By staff.
Bring it back to the
one thing
I would
want to say
from staff is a subcommittee, and that's just me from that standpoint. But that's up to the team. Thanks, Jeff.
I would agree with Sean, because if you just look at that one picture we're looking at, from the first floor to the second floor, to the transition up to the fifth scales, to those soffits, this is gonna either make or break bringing this house together. It was obvious that the owners weren't interested in really putting a lot of money in bringing this house back. So these details are important, and I think it is a subcommittee, Sean.
So I am the owner, and I'm putting in probably about $100,000.
Hold on a second. You'll need to swear in.
Mr. McMahon, do you
Yes.
swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do, Jack. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm the owner. We've been going around this thing for 3 months now. We're trying to do the right thing. We're spending a hell of a lot of money in this house, and the Hardy plank is going to make improvements to the house and to the community. So I'm at a loss to see why there's such pushback at this point.
At this point, what we are looking at is to approve your application as staff has recommended. That is changing the reveal to 4-inch rather than 7, and to have a subcommittee look at a list of details before the actual changes are made. That does not involve another meeting. That involves simply a set of drawings showing those particular details that would be submitted to staff. Staff would then give them to the subcommittee, whom I'm guessing consists of Conyers and Hissom, who will then say, yes, you've done what we had in mind, go ahead. So I think, unless I've misread my fellow commissioners, are approaching the end of the tunnel.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I was just going to add in, like, as an explanation.
My last comment is I've already taken pieces off a house, so at this point, if it doesn't get approved, I'm in a little bit of a pickle.
All right. Was that Commissioner Moriarty?
Yeah, I was just going to add as an explanation, like we are, I believe, approving to put hardy plank on top of the asbestos siding, which will change the depth of the siding, right? So what the details that we're looking at is where the new hardy plank meets the existing trim work and how that will look, essentially, so just to make sure it looks correct in the end.
Yeah, so wherever you have a split transition with James Hardy product, you have to have some type of structure. So like with the exposure question, I know one of the gentlemen in here asked about the exposure. So hardy plank is actually not that thick of a product, like like actually the boarding of it, which is the actual siding. But the trim around it is 5 1/4 inch. Or 5/4 inch, should I say? So that's why it sticks out a lot further. So you still have that dimensional pop with James Hardy.
Exactly. All right. Do we have a motion?
I have one more question first, Jack.
Okay, go ahead.
Was wondering what the commission and architects felt about instead of repairing the existing fish scales to be replaced in kind with new fresh wooden fish scales, and if that would maybe not end in a better end product, freshly painted new wood fish scales versus trying to repair the existing.
It's not a bad idea.
This is Jamie Sanders with Feasel. I just wanted to add, Sarah, I had sent an E360.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm
Jamie,
testimony you're going to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
We have a bunch of people who keep popping in here who didn't announce themselves.
I apologize. I just wanted to note they were wanting some details, and I did send in an E360, which really details each elevation and everything. I'm not sure if that's available.
Can you scroll, Belkis? Let's see what's in here. There's a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
All right.
Who was waiting?
While Sarah's looking, who was waiting to speak?
What page would that be on?
I would head down towards just beyond the photos. There's a lot of additional, let's see. Maybe Jamie can tell us if there's one you want us to like take a look at for an example. It may still be beneficial for commissioners to review it in a subcommittee so they have more time to take a look at it. But it would certainly be a quicker review since we would have this material. However, still, I believe this is all for 7-inch exposure, so we'd want to double check.
Yeah, I think, staff and the applicant have to work out whether you have a package that you can give the subcommittee, but the subcommittee needs to look at it, I think. Too.
Yeah, we can get that together for them.
All right. Are we now ready to have a motion?
Yes, sir. I move to approve as submitted with the following conditions, and that the exposure would be reduced to 4-inch exposure on the hardy horizontal siding.
Stop, wait a minute. We left something hanging, which was, that's why I knew that there was something missing, which is Aaron raised the issue of replacing rather than repairing the fish scale. It was my understanding that the fish scale's in pretty good shape except for a couple little areas. Am I wrong?
You're correct. But so the only thing I'll tell you with that is when you deal with an older product like that, it could have been painted over 20 times and it can get very brittle over time. And if you go to repair a couple of those pieces, that's when you guys get really mad at us because we just come to you guys and say, hey, there's nothing we can do about it.
Isn't that something, since we are trying to preserve as much of this building as we can, is this something that you would need to come back for if you ran into a problem?
With the fish scale, I mean, if it's a repair estate, I don't know the year that this home was built, so I did not do my research on that. But just based on what's that, Pat?
I think it's 1910, something along those lines.
It's easily an historic structure.
Yep. But just based on my expertise in the industry, when you go to repair a fish scale like that, it can turn out bad for all parties involved.
It's just more money to put into it.
You would find out in a hurry if you ran into a problem, though, wouldn't you?
But as far as repair-wise, yeah, I mean, you'd find out pretty much the first little section that you break off at the top.
Right. Do we want to leave the fish scales alone, commissioners, or change them out?
Staff's recommendation is in-kind replacement if necessary.
I would agree.
Staff recommendation. I would agree.
All right, back to you, Sean. You were in the middle of a motion when I interrupted you.
No problem, sir. Thank you so much. So a motion to approve as submitted with the exposure, with the following conditions or the following changes. That the exposure is changed from 7-inch to 4-inch exposure on the horizontal siding. That the existing fish scales are left to remain. And then additional details to be followed up. And those details include a detail through the window trim and understanding the window trim and its relationship to the new against the existing. The belt course around the second that splits the second floor from the first floor. The condition at the soffit, the transition between the new material and existing material at the soffit and fascia. Understanding of if the gutters and downspouts are being replaced as part of this, with those details. And as well as what the detail looks like between the new siding and the existing fish scales, which are to remain in the gable ends. Did I miss any additional details? And then those details would be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the 4-inch siding, I didn't think I thought we had this, it was 7-inch before, and now we're going to 4. I'm not sure why that is.
We've always taken the position that 4 inches was the appropriate reveal, not 7.
But even though we've identified under the siding that it was 7 before?
That wasn't a lap, that's flat.
Okay.
As well as the detail, there was one additional detail, which is the projected bay on the front elevation. It has the two small windows that faced, I think, just north and south, and understanding the relationship of those trims to the corner boards on that projected bay. So, as Jeff mentioned, that kind of understanding those transitions vertically from the first floor to the second floor up to the gable would be very important to understand.
And all of these details you mentioned should be submitted to a subcommittee of Hissam and Conyers. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct, sir.
And what is the turnaround time typically?
Hang on a minute. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Further discussion among the commissioners.
Can I ask, Commissioner Conyers, you said fish scales to remain. Are you okay with repair and in-kind replacement if needed?
Yes, ma'am. I think that's the staff recommendation, so I'm okay with that. I think if they run into problems more than in-kind replacement and that's not in-kind replacement of the entire gable, that is, repair of, specific areas that are damaged. I just want to kind of clarify that. If they run into problems with that method, that they would need to come back for another review.
Okay.
For that area specifically.
In part, not in whole.
Is
Yes,
the second okay with that amendment to the motion? Who seconded it? Do we have
I second it. Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, further discussion. Let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Sullivan, not here. Sewo.
Yay.
Conyers.
Yes.
Decker. Yay. All right. So we had a question from the applicant about turnaround time.
Yeah, so this has been going on for about 3-4 months. What do we expect as far as when can we start the project once we submit the information?
You will I'll let the subcommittee speak to that, but normally it takes a week or less.
Okay.
Is that right, gentlemen?
Yes, sir. I think in past actions, Jeff and I have been pretty quick in terms of review. I think it really just depends on the clarity of the information that's put together. If the clarity of the information is there and all those details are appropriately documented, I think we can move through that pretty swiftly.
All right.
Yeah, once we get the information, we can turn it around really quick.
We've taken a half hour. I'm very sorry, but I've got to move us along. Have a good day, folks.
Thank you.
All right, next.
Next is, these are all new applications now. This is 647 High Street. It was conceptually reviewed before, back in December. The applicant would like to install an operable service window within an existing window opening and a heat-applied vinyl mural to be installed on the wall surrounding the window. Included in the staff reports, commissioners' comments from the December 2020 hearing. The applicant since then has modified the design of the window after receiving their conceptual feedback. The proposed window will fill the entire available window space, and there will be no fixed exterior ledge or shelf. The proposed wall is on High Street, though it's angled away, but the Short North design guidelines do indicate that murals are not appropriate on elevations that front High Street. I also note that the Short North design guidelines do not directly address walk-up windows, so that leaves a little more to interpretation here. Commissioners at the business meeting requested some additional windows, or rather information. They noted that the window shown on the rendering is the previously proposed window, not the newly proposed window. The applicant stated that that is because it is a custom window. So they don't have that rendering available, but it will be the new window. Commissioners asked what color the new window would be. It'll be white to match the existing frame surrounding it. And they do have a letter of support from the Victorian Gate Board that expresses support for both the mural and for the window, provided that the window can be reversible if needed in the future. Staff's recommendation is to approve the application with the condition that the mural should not be installed since it does not meet the Short North design guidelines. That comes from the Short North design guidelines for murals, which state that murals are not appropriate on building elevations that front High Street, and that the appropriate location for the placement of murals is on side and rear elevations. The applicant is here to speak.
All right, who is here for the applicant?
Niall Woodson here, present.
I'm sorry, who's here? Niall Woodson. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to what staff has presented?
No, I think she spelled it out correctly. I will reiterate that this rendering was more designed to show the mural as opposed to the window. The company that we're going with is doing a custom fitting window that will fill the full space that currently is there. And the tone will be custom matched to match the trim of the building. Also, as far as the mural is concerned, after our last conceptual review, I was under the impression that there wasn't so much an issue with the northeast facing wall, but that the main issues were how it would be applied. So I specifically had our designer design it in a way that it will be heat applied vinyl, very easy to transition that digitally, as well as that we won't alter anything on the outside wall. We also changed the artwork to be a historic piece of art. To quote you, Jack, the last design had some fuddy-duddy business. So we decided to go with the classic Hokusai wave and in the tradition of keeping, the traditional art of the neighborhood. That's
Here
all I
we
have.
are, allowing me to introduce architectural terms to the discussion again. All right, just to clarify, this is a side-by-side slider. It's just going to be taller, so you won't have that big aluminum bar across the top of it.
Yes, correct.
Otherwise, the window's the same.
Yeah.
No more counter, and then we have the issue of the heat-applied vinyl art.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
In the elevation that they have, the northeast elevation, I believe it shows the inch diameter on the here on this cross wall schematic, and I believe that is with the new window in. Actually, I'm sorry. It must be the schematic of the window itself. It shows it's only about a 2-inch metal piece.
Okay. Discussion.
It fits the frame very well.
Discussion, folks.
I'm happy.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
I am continuing to be concerned that the art unduly calls attention to this feature, which is marginally appropriate. We're allowing it, if we do, to allow this restaurant to adapt to the times. But I'm not sure that we want to have a giant bullseye around it, even though I kind of like the ocean.
Here's what I think, Jack. We've crossed a Rubicon within this pandemic time, and I think we need to think about developing High Street. And I think we also need to know that this can be just as easy. That artwork can be just as easily reversed. It's not like they're. It's forever.
Absolutely.
That's another viewpoint. How do the other commissioners feel? Are there any other issues, or are we okay with this?
Crickets.
I'm okay with it.
As far as the window, I think the window itself is a great alternate to what was being proposed before. So I have no concerns with that, and I think Niall represented it well in terms of. I just needed to understand the color since the selection wasn't noted. So I can't tell with the existing storefront system, but I think he mentioned that it's intended to match the existing storefront system, which is the elements that are the window system that addresses his entry. And I just want to be clear on that. So I'm okay with the window. As far as the piece, I think that that's a good thing that it's been clarified, because I had questions about what the materiality was, given that it's sitting on the ground. So, is this something that's going to get damaged? Is this something, just because it's low, scuffed up, things of that nature in terms of its application? And how does it relate to the other, I'm going to say, facade elements, like the plaque and things of that nature? But now that it's more of an applied vinyl, I don't necessarily have any concerns from that standpoint.
All right.
Generally, permanent murals aren't considered appropriate within this area.
Certainly not on brick.
So would you want to consider, or would you consider putting a year time period around this, or some sort of time period, rather than allowing it to be considered a permanent mural? And the applicant can always return in a certain amount of time. That's what we've done in the past for heat applied vinyl murals, if they want to come back in 6 months or a year to further discuss.
Exactly. That's how we've dealt with the heat applied murals. I'm crossing the Rubicon this is an island out in the middle of the Rubicon, because it is only partially fronting High Street and partially sideways. So if you are worried about precedent, we're inviting others now to say, well, this is actually facing High Street as much as it's not. Why can't we have a mural facing High Street? And we do have a guideline that says we aren't supposed to have that thing, that have that particular feature. So, I think at the very least, this should be some sort of test case with a year's tag on it, but I'm not comfortable at all with the mural. I could be a lone ranger here, but I don't think it's necessary to the project, and it creates problems for us down the road.
Sarah, do we have a recommended time frame? Is it a year?
Somebody mentioned a year.
I would say no more than a year. It could be 6 months. We've done that before too, but I think that's up to you guys.
So if this will make this any easier to get through, I would then put a year on it, and it might be a nice thing for them to rotate it. Who knows? It might be a good branding thing. I don't know. So it actually could give them flexibility after a year.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to move to approve as submitted with the year's limit on the mural?
Sure. Wonders, I'll put up this project and post discussion as submitted. The limiting factor being that the mural will be a sort of a test case for the High Street corridor, and will sort of a pilot project, and we'll put a year term on that mural.
Second.
That's Moriarty. Hisson moved. Further discussion? Let's vote. Moriarty?
Yes.
Hisson?
Yes.
Sullivan not here. Sewo?
Yay.
Conyers?
Yes.
Decker, no. Motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, man.
Thanks.
All right, we are at 891 Denison. This applicant would like to remove the windows from all openings except the primary elevation 3rd floor, and I'll clarify, this is just on the right side. It's a duplex. These windows were previously replaced in 2009. They'd like to install Renewal by Anderson wood composite windows, which are not on the approved windows list. That's why it's coming to the commission. And they're proposing to paint these new windows to match the existing. So I've included the certificate from 2009, which specified that the windows would be replaced with all wood interior exterior windows, and that the diamond pane sashes should be retained and repaired in kind. Commissioners at the business meeting requested additional photos of the existing windows, which the applicant did submit, which are included here. Commissioners had asked if these proposed windows could be painted. The applicant said that yes, it's a wood composite Fibrex material that can be painted. I asked for clarification and they told me that it is only being proposed for the right half of the building and that the diamond pane sashes will not be removed or altered. So staff's recommendation here is to approve the project with conditions, and those conditions are that the windows may be replaced, but they should be replaced with windows from the approved windows list, with that window selection to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate. If they want to speak more to perhaps why they can't select a window from the approved windows list, that would be helpful, I believe, for me too. And I just don't believe that these renewal by Andersen have been at least not while I've been here. So I have hesitations. They are here. Oh, and I'll also say that that's based on the Victorian Village guidelines and standards for alteration, which I listed in the staff report.
All right. Do we have someone here from the applicant? Hello?
Yes. Hello?
Who is here?
My name's Edward Pollock from Renewal by Andersen.
And do you have someone with you who'll be speaking?
And yes,
and Jeff Christie from
Jeff
Renewal
Christie.
I'm the manager of Renewal by Andersen. So either one of us or both.
Did you both swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
I do.
I do.
Very well.
I have a question first, though, Jack. So this is a double or a condo, and is there a condo association attached to it? Because if we go and do this on one side, how do we instill the integrity, architectural integrity of the whole building without getting an agreement from the other side?
No, it's just currently a duplex. And these windows have been, these are replacement windows in there now that do not match the other side currently.
So is it a single ownership or is it double ownership?
Two ownerships.
It's a duplex, so it's condoed out.
Yes. So it is a condo. They would have some type of condo association. And I think there needs to be some agreement with the other side to make this thing work.
The owner, Mr. Lacho, told me that they do not need to do the windows in unison, according to the condo association records.
Well,
of course,
we don't know what we're looking at because, you know, we don't know what condition the windows on the other side are. Those could be original windows we may not want to pull. But I think before we go down that rabbit hole, we should ask the applicant what they have to add to staff's presentation.
To what?
Staff made a presentation. Do you have something to add to it that we should know about before we start pursuing Mr. Hissam's issue?
No.
Very well. All right. So I don't know.
There's a lot of detail on this building that I'm afraid if we do not look at, document, we are going to lose.
Are you requesting something in writing as far as that the agreement within the two homeowners or that condo, as you're calling it, stating that one side doesn't need to do it with the other? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's not a matter of one side doesn't need to do it. When the other side does it, it's commanded to do what the other side did. First guy in, last guy out.
Okay. Regardless if they don't currently match now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully we're not saying that we're mandating immediate replacement of the windows on the other unit.
Not at all. But when time comes, and if they choose to do that, Jack, they should match, especially the front facade.
Well, you know, I share your concern, Commissioner Hissam. I'm not sure that how we do it. Because actually, if we approve these windows for side A, whether he had agreed or not, Commissioner, the owner of side B, when it's time to replace his windows, is pretty much stuck with that decision. So I think maybe in fairness,
we've done that many times before, Jack.
In fairness, I'm not familiar with having done so in exactly this situation. In fairness, at least we need to make sure that the owner of the other side is aware of this and has the opportunity to object, understanding how it locks him in. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but you're actually, the way you're doing it though, you're forcing both homeowners.
No, that's not what he's saying.
No,
I don't think so.
No, I'm saying that ultimately it's our decision. And we, even if the other side objected, we may or may not agree to approve this.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that at the very least, the owner of the other side ought to know about this and ought to have an opportunity to weigh in, because this is going to affect his property as well as this.
Yeah. So are you?
Does that make sense, Commissioner Hissom?
I'm sorry.
Yep.
All right.
It does.
Do we understand that, applicants?
Yes, I believe so. Are you requesting acknowledgement from the other side?
Yeah, that they've been notified and that they understand that the selection of windows on one side of the property will obligate them when it's time to replace their windows to use the same window.
Got it. So I'll talk to the homeowner then, Mr. Lacho, and have him discuss it with his next door neighbor.
Is there a certain format that needs to be in, or just something?
I don't know of a format.
I mean,
a signed statement will probably work. An affidavit's better. What do you think, Sarah?
Yes. Okay.
I think a letter that is signed by them that is submitted to us, we'll put it in the file, would be fine.
Okay.
I think that will come after the discussion about the windows.
Okay.
Right, because we have another issue, which is, what about these Anderson windows? I hear them advertised constantly.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they haven't made it onto our approved list.
We have just not did that much, I guess. Really, the whole it's perfect for that area. I mean, it's these are a mortise and tenon in a lot of different parts of the country, historical areas. I know that doesn't affect you there, but I think it meets all the requirements. But for whatever reason, we would like to get on that list, and maybe that's a subsequent thing. Right now, in these times, I don't know that we can submit actual products and stuff, actual samples in front of you yet. So I don't know what we do in the meantime.
Sarah, what would they do?
Well, they took a lot of really good photos. So if we can scroll down through the photos of the building, and then you get to some photos from, I think, maybe your showroom or where you had your product sample. They submitted a package pretty much in lieu of a physical product. So we'll keep going. And then, commissioners, if you would like to see a physical sample, I'm not sure how we would do that, but I know that German Village has figured out some way to get a sample and cycle through it. But I don't know if that's something we're comfortable with. Right now.
You know, we came up with our approved list when staff had basically generated a proposal for an approved list, as I recall, back in the day. Would it make sense for staff to look at one of these windows and see what they think of it? Or make a recommendation whether it ought to be on the approved list?
Generally, we would want a test case based on something that the commissioners had agreed looks good to you guys. A test case would go in for more than a year, and we would continue to look back at it before something got on the list.
Do any of the commissioners see anything from any of these photos and cross sections that would cause you not to want to make these windows a test case?
Also, as a note, those doors are not a part of what we're looking at right now.
Right.
I'm fine with extending this and making this a test case. I think the more options we have for people, the better off we are.
Yeah, whatever replacement windows these guys put in before lasted 12 years. Hopefully these will beat that by quite a bit.
Ours are a 20-year warranty. Full.
Also, can you you're just proposing 1/1, right? Not
Correct.
Okay.
1/1. No grills, just as is, like for like.
I put Andersons in my 1981 rehab, and they're still there.
Yep. Can't beat that.
All right. So do we want to continue this and then consider it next time when we have the notice? Or is there a way to do this quicker?
I think we could do pending staff approval of a notice.
I just have two other questions quickly. Is the door, we're not, it doesn't say anything about a door, so I know the patio door was shown, and that's not in the application, is that correct?
I think originally we were, right?
We were originally, but we withdrew it.
Yeah, we withdrew, so that should have been withdrew for the pictures, I believe.
Okay, and then the last item is the existing windows look like they were almost like sashbacks where they kept the surrounding casing itself, and then they kind of like reduce the masonry opening or reduce the daylight opening of the window. I'm presuming the intent here is to go back and you're replacing this window back into the overall masonry opening and not reducing that overall daylight opening.
Well, actually, our profiles, we were doing like for like. We can do actually both, but actually our profile was a thinner profile than that, so it would actually gain a little bit of what that is. We're not ripping out and going back into the wall cavities. That's not what we've proposed because they are replacement windows in there currently. So we were going our product like for like. That's more of an installation process, and we certainly can go either way, but that's not doing like for like, I guess.
What's our exterior of this building? Oh, there it is, brick.
Yes.
So if you go to, Sarah and team, if you go to a couple of images, if you were to scroll up vertically, right, select that one there. So you can see that those windows probably go to a different photograph. The one that I keep going down, right there, stop right there. Oop. Right, one more up.
Back up a little.
Right there, stop. Right there. So you can see, the casing itself, the original window casing is on the left that addresses the brick. And then they've stepped down the windows themselves. They stepped down the sides of the window and kind of went in where just the sash is.
What we are doing too.
I know that that's been some points of contention on some other projects when I first joined the commission. So I would presume that we would want to maintain the overall size of the window back to the masonry opening. So just something for the commission to consider.
What's the applicant think of that?
But can you go to the, I see what you're saying, more to the inside. Again, this is more of an installation method. Again, what you're referring to there is the brick mold. This is a current replacement window in there now. So we are just replacing like for like. If it's required to do, to go back to the studs basically, and all new trim on the inside. It's just a different proposal to the homeowner. Usually the weight cavities are filled. If you're talking about going to this situation, we would have to remove the weight cavities and go back in and alter actually the inside of the opening to change what you're talking about here as far as the brick mold. We can do it either way. That's not what we proposed to the homeowner. We just did like for like.
Considering this is an existing condition, that may be a big cost to pull off all your interior casings and redo all those details.
It can be as much as 30% more.
So what do the other commissioners think about requiring that in this situation?
So let's go.
Well, I guess this is where we get into the problem with architectural details.
We have some background noise. Do we know what that is? Jeff, what do you think of this?
I'm gonna mute the applicant, but you can unmute yourself whenever you're ready to speak.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I can hear myself think. Does anybody else have an opinion on the need to go back to the original window size? We're looking at less than an inch on most dimensions here.
I mean, I will follow Sean on this because he truly has a good eye for this kind of detail, which I'm not very good at.
Anyone else?
I guess just, for the team, I'm not necessarily 100% concerned with it. I just know that there was a point of contention on the past project, and the work was done before it came before us. And so the homeowner wasn't aware, and the installation had proceeded, and that level of clarity was not provided. So it almost echoes the condition here. So I just wanted to bring it up so then that way the work wouldn't proceed and we wouldn't have an issue. So
yeah.
In that regard, it was resolved, if I remember correctly, by placing a storm window on it just to try to help, I should say, disguise it. It was a condo kind of condition. So that's how it was disguised. I think in the end, when they went in, it was more so, it wasn't an issue. It was just the work had proceeded prior to that level of detail coming before us. So
I think I remember that now, Sean, and it
yes,
seems to me that was somewhat different from this situation. One, the amount of infill for the windows was a lot more visible. And two, that was the first time they had replaced that.
That is very true, Jeff. That is correct.
This is different because it's an existing condition, and theoretically, a commission before us had allowed someone to cut in slightly into the opening. So we would be reversing a decision that had already been made in due course by some previous commission back in 1991, probably Mr. Hisson. No. But 2009 or whenever it was that the old windows went in. That could include me. So I think that's a whole different kettle of fish. But
I just wanted to get it out there. I just wanted to get it out there, but I understand the variation. I just wanted to get it out there. So thank you.
Do we want to make a motion to approve this subject to the appropriate material going to staff to review whether the window can be added to the or made a test case for purpose of the Windows list?
Sure, I'll do it.
I'll make the motion. A motion to.
Well, Aaron beat you to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, Sean. Motion to approve as submitted pending receipt of a signed letter from the owner of the other half of the duplex or condo, notifying an agreement to the window choices moving forward if they were to replace their own. And also taking note that the materials are entered into a test case scenario for staff to evaluate in order to be potentially added to the approved windows list.
Does that work? Do we have a second?
Second. Good job, Aaron.
Further discussion? Let us vote. Moriarty,
Yes.
Hissom,
Yes.
Sullivan not here. Sewo,
Yay.
Conyers,
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. There you go. You're almost there.
Thank you much. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Very good, and thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, what's next?
All right, item 4 is the rehabilitation project at 23 West 2nd Avenue. This is exterior building alteration, and I included the entire scope of rehabilitation work here. So some of this is really routine rehabilitation measures that could have been staff approved, such as like the tuck pointing and cleaning and patching and replacing damaged masonry, but I wanted to have that here for commissioners to review in full. This includes also salvaging 3 2x2 historic age windows from a portion of the building to be demolished and to reinstall those windows in openings that currently have glass block. They'd like to move a door on the west elevation slightly south and install a new door. Repair and repaint plaster, remove the existing roofing materials and replace it with a flat roof EPDM and the Certainty Standard 3-tab nickel gray shingles. Those are again staff approvable items. Are on the approved windows list, or rather roofing materials list. They'd also like to remove the existing carport and remove vines from the building. And then there's an installation of a new concrete stair that's being proposed on the east elevation and installing a new ramp extending on the south elevation. And those are included in the elevation drawings for your review. Staff's analysis of this, so I will recall here that demolition of the rear portion of the building was approved at the November 18th hearing. I included the language from the approval, which stated that the issuance of that certificate is contingent upon review and approval of a rehabilitation plan for the remaining portion of the building, in addition to the review and approval of the new construction. The notes here are that the roofing materials are on the approved roofing shingle list, that the proposed cleaner, Heritage Restore, has been successfully used elsewhere. And then I included the feedback from the business meeting for your review, which stated that commissioners noted for demolition projects, HAB's photo documentation is usually required. While there's not an approved doors list, the doors should meet the Victorian Village guidelines. So the applicant did submit an additional door option, and this is for that new door opening, I believe, on the west elevation. That if the 3 windows cannot be reused, the applicant should submit a cut sheet for replacement windows. They did submit that as well. The applicant also submitted a letter describing the tuck pointing scope of work. And so altogether, staff's recommendation is to approve the application with a few different conditions. First is that the applicant should provide high quality professional photographs that meet HAB's standards of the rear section to be demolished, that the windows should be retained and used, that the new door should not be that on the screen right now, should not be a smooth panel design, but should be a 2-panel design, which they submitted a couple pages later, and that the applicant should test the chemical cleaner on a small, minimally visible area of the building before applying it throughout. This comes from the standards of alteration, particularly item 2, which states that the removal or alteration of any historic material should be avoided wherever possible. Item 6, that states that features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible, and that repair or replacement shall be based on accurate duplications of features. And from the Victorian Village guidelines for windows and doors, which state that it's appropriate to preserve original doors, windows, and transoms, and that it is not appropriate to have a flat door. And the applicant is here to speak more.
Who is here on behalf of the applicant?
Hi, Jack. It's Jessica from Kaufman, and we also have Frank Sasso, Mike Shannon, and Priya Iyer for this application.
Okay, the four of you all swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Staff, did you see everybody? I didn't. That's it. I couldn't tell if anyone had their fingers crossed. So, all right. What have we to? First off, commissioners, I think this is sufficiently severable from the other half of this that we can just go ahead and look at this. Does anyone disagree with me at this part of it? Because we've also got a new build application here.
I think we're fine to proceed.
I agree. All right. What have we?
Is it my turn, Jack, or do you
Yes,
ask?
it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Sorry, Jessica.
No, you're okay. So thank you for hearing us today. We appreciate it. Sarah gave a great summary, so thank you, Sarah, for that. So again, this application is for the rehabilitation of the IBW building, and this is in response to the conditional approval of the partial renovation, partial demolition, which was approved at the November 2020 meeting. So I'm going to reiterate some of what Sarah said, maybe go into a little bit more detail. The rehabilitation plan will complete the following. So we'll repaint all the windows to match the existing color. We'll replace and repair a few broken window panes. There's only 2. These were sent to Sarah. We'll replace the existing rubber roof with EPDM roofing and the existing shingles with the HPO approved new shingles. EPDM is really long lasting, as I'm sure you all know, low maintenance, and it would be good for us for flexibility for a tenant that will eventually go in there. We will chuck point the masonry as needed and clean with the HPO approved cleaning agent. And this was all reviewed by HK Phillips Restoration, and a letter was submitted to Sarah, which was requested at the business meeting. We'll repair the entry doors and the awnings on 2nd Avenue because those need a little bit of love. If possible, we're going to salvage and reuse the 3 windows, as Sarah mentioned, from the demolition portion of the building along the west facade. We will do everything we can to save these windows, but as you guys know, in demolition, even when you're careful, things happen and windows are old. So we will do what we can with these windows, but if they can't be salvaged, we're going to replace with new historically accurate windows. And we submitted those cut sheets, as Sarah mentioned. We'd like to move an opening on the west facade slightly south. We have stairs in the building and they're not code compliant, so we have to rebuild those stairs. And as part of that, we were hoping to shift that door to better serve the inside of that building. Right now, the stairs are kind of in the middle of that floor plan and not super convenient for a tenant that might go in there. Let's see, we will do the 2-panel design on the window, or I'm sorry, on the exterior door. We would like to add a concrete ramp at the southeast portion of the building. So basically where the ramp exists now, where you can see from 2nd Avenue, we'd like to add a ramp that extends behind that portion of the building. You won't be able to even really see it, but it will be required for code compliance. The other option is to put it on the front of the building, which we didn't think anybody would be happy with. And then as such, we would include a couple stairs to get up to that ramp location. And then, as you know, we'll also be completing a ton of rehab work within the building, remediation, rebuilding stairs, structural repairs, demolition of non-load bearing walls, mechanical, electrical, plumbing work, all that good stuff that has to happen to get it up to a standard for a new tenant. And then finally, we do understand the HABs report is typically required as part of any demolition approval. So we will complete the HABs short format report for the portion of the building to be demolished, and we would submit that with our final plans when the building goes in for our certificate of appropriateness from Sarah. So that is kind of my summary. Frank from Kaufman, do you have anything to add?
Nope. Thanks, Jess.
Okay.
Commissioners, any issues?
None that I see.
The only one that I see is we're moving a door location.
I'm not so worried about that, Jack, just because that tail end of that building, we're not talking about the front facade, which is actually the jewel.
Yeah, I don't have necessarily an issue with it either. If I were going to have one, that would be it. What are we using for a door now that we're not using flat steel?
Belkis, can you scroll down a couple pages? Or, yeah, keep going. There's a page with a 2-panel door on it. That one, right, Jess?
Yes.
There we go. And we've got a little hood over it, right?
Yeah. So yep. So we'll our plan is to move that as well, that awning over that door.
Anybody else have any questions or issues?
Yeah, this is Sean. I was just gonna ask a couple of things. The dimensions are not on the drawings as of right now, as it relates to the demo, but the demo looks like it's in, so to speak, it's compatible with conceptually we reviewed maybe in the November meeting or the August meeting, whenever that was. So that's positive. Thanks so much for the clarification on painting. That was helpful because I couldn't find if the windows were going to be painted. The relocation of the doors and the windows in the rear, I was just trying to understand the reasoning behind it. So thank you so much from a code perspective. So I don't really necessarily have any issues. The only thing is just trying to understand when all of this work gets kind of put back, do you have enough of the existing brick that is going to marry up to these existing conditions, so that way it can be properly kind of teased in and things of that nature. So then that way, hopefully, we can kind of solve some of those transition issues. And then there was one other window, which was the basement window. That's kind of, I want to make sure that it's at least referenced. Not an issue, but it looks like there was 2 openings down there, but now it's 1. So I'm just presuming that's because of the relocation of the door. So. But no issues from my standpoint.
And Commissioner Conyers, just to address one comment in particular. So the brick, we will attempt to reuse the brick with the demolition portion of the building, but if we can't, we will, if they crumble or they're not going to hold up, we will, because they are fairly old, we will match with new brick, but we won't be able to match until we clean that brick, because we do think it needs a pretty good cleaning to understand what the color really is. So that is our game plan there, but I do remember that from a previous comment.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the, oh, okay, never mind. There's a big hunk of the building that was built at the same time as the front, so never mind. Any other questions or concerns?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time. Which door is it that is being moved?
So if you go to the west elevation.
The best look of it is probably on.
Yep, right there. So this shows the proposed new location. The existing location is just a little bit north towards the front of the building. And we're proposing moving it slightly.
Okay, I see it now. Thank you. No other comments.
Are we ready for a motion? Or do we have more to talk about?
I think we can make a motion. Make a motion as submitted with the additional language that yes, we've approved the door and the materials in there, changing it to a titanium.
And is the photo inventory included as part of the motion? I forget the name of it. What is it called again? HABs. The HABs photo inventory of the soon-to-be demolished part is part of this application.
And
is that included in your motion, Jeff?
It is.
There you go. Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Okay, Moriarty.
Yes.
Hissom.
Yes.
Sullivan not here still. Siwo.
Okay.
Conyers.
Yes.
Decker, yes, motion passes.
I have a point of order, please.
Who's this?
Bill Wood.
Oh, you weren't speaking about this, were you?
Yes, I was.
Oh, Bill, sorry, I had you on for the new construction.
Well, I did, look, we can't see anything on what the agenda is here, so.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about the
rehab?
I'd like
the
to
rehab?
talk about both of them. If there are two separate ones.
Yeah, we decided to take these separately.
Oh,
so we did not deal with anything other than the rehab of 23, the old 23 building.
I would like to speak on both, if I may.
Well, we already passed a motion, so we can reconsider that. Why don't we move to?
No, I'm not asking you to go against the vote.
We could do that if we wanted to, but go ahead.
I'm fine with that. I would just like to say a couple words on the rehabilitation.
I will recognize Mr. Woods for a couple words on the rehabilitation, if that's all right, Sarah.
Yeah, I'll set a timer for 3 minutes for Bill Wood to speak for rehabilitation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, let me start my video. Okay. I want to thank Kaufman for doing this at 23.
Jack, can we swear this witness in?
Oh, I forgot to. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth?
Absolutely.
Very well. Please proceed.
I want to thank Kaufman for doing this at 23 West 2nd. It's been a long time coming. The building is deteriorated on the outside of town, and we appreciate it. We the neighborhood appreciate it very much. Just want to make sure that the windows that are in the part of the building that are retained are going to be the same as they are. They're fantastic. They're going to cost money to redo, but they're fantastic.
As I understand it, is the application.
Great. There is a big issue with fiberglass in the interior of the building, and I want to make sure that you, and I'm sure they're aware of it too, that the EPA standards are on removal of fiberglass are upheld. And I want to, as far as there is a chimney swift habitat that they're aware of, that they are going to be demolishing. Well, today, they had a company out covering the top of the chimney, which is they're taking away the habitat of the chimney swifts. And they being an eco-friendly development, I was wondering where they're planning on, because they're going to be coming in just a couple months, they're going to be coming back. And I understand that's why they put the cover on, because once the chimney swifts are there, by law, they can't do anything. They can't touch it. But if the chimney swifts aren't there when they start the demolition, then they're allowed to. But I'm wondering if they're going to do a chimney somewhere on the rest of the building that's left as far as a chimney swift habitat. And the third thing is, how about the restoration of 37 West 2nd, which is the building just west of the IBEW that they also own, and that is part of this project. But overall, I want to thank them for what they've done so far. That's it.
Thank you. Ordinarily, we do not have give and take between speakers and the applicant, but if when we go to the next project, if the applicant wants to address any of those things, they may. All right, are we ready to move to the new build?
Okay, that is item 5 on the agenda.
The stickier wicket.
This is for new construction of a 7-story mixed-use building and 7 2-story townhouses along Price Avenue. Scrolling 1 second. Okay, the building will be connected to the existing IBEW building at its rear, the IBEW building's rear elevation. Ground floors to include retail space and interior two-story parking garage. And the final window, door, finishes, lighting, signage package are all to return for final approval. So I included in the staff report again, just the note that the demolition of the rear portion of the IBEW building was approved at the November 18th hearing. But that is contingent upon the review and approval of the rehabilitation plan, as well as the final review and approval of the plans for new construction. This project was reviewed conceptually at an August 2020 special meeting. While conceptual applications usually only result in design feedback for the applicant, commissioners voted 3-1 to provide the applicant with preliminary approval of the height, finished floor height, and massing. Commissioners had the following feedback at the conceptual review. This is taken from the August 3rd, 2020 meetings. Commissioners stated that they need to understand the roofscape and the peak elevation of the ridge lines. That height and massing does not include materials, landscaping, or architectural features. It means building height, finished floor heights, and building footprint. And if those things change, like if you need more room for a compactor, you must come back for reapproval. At the business meeting, commissioners had feedback where they asked for more information regarding water management strategies, such as how will the roof drain, will there be gutters and downspouts, are they internal? The applicant stated that they do not have details on the water management system at this time. Commissioners asked for a better understanding of depth and details of a number of proposed elements, including the balconies. They had questions about how deep the balconies would be, or will the railings be flush with the building. They asked for clarification about how the brick will transition to the aluminum or the panels, and how the panels will transition to the roof. More details generally about the front doors of the townhomes, the balcony areas, the pool area, and the retail areas. And they also asked for more information about the metal panels. Where have the panels been used before? For technical project data, for an attachment clarification about how the panels will attach, what the quality of the panels is, images of the buildings that have successfully utilized the product would be helpful. And the applicant did provide additional section drawings, brick and metal panel information, and examples of other projects that have utilized the metal panel system. They supplied more product cut sheets, and to commissioners' questions about the pool area, the applicant did submit some additional drawings at the very end of the packet that talks about the pool area. Let's see what else. So I was talking to the applicant and recommended that they select windows from the approved windows list, but they let me know that they are not ready to commit to an approved window yet, because they'd like to explore the options of similar products by other manufacturers, as the product is not out to bid yet. So staff's recommendation for this application is to approve it with conditions. Those conditions being that water management plans, final window and door selections, final landscaping, finishes, lighting, signage, and pool area design should return for further review. That exterior materials, including the green wall system, aside from the brick and metal panels, should return for future review, and that the applicant should not propose sheet metal with a wood finish. That the applicant should commit to the selected color of the metal panels and brick. For example, they say that it's subject to change based on owner approval, so I feel like that language should be removed from any approval. That the applicant should provide a detailed section drawing of the proposed balcony railing and clarify whether it will be flush with the building or not, and that detailed section drawing should be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate. And that the applicant should clarify the townhome entryway conditions and submit a section drawing illustrating that condition to staff or a subcommittee. And while they did submit some section drawings, there's just not that clarity of detail with the townhouse entryway conditions, in my opinion. This comes from standards for new construction, particularly item A, which states that new structures, while looking new, should relate to existing contributing properties surrounding the new structure. That the proportion of openings, width, and height of windows, doors, and entries shall be visually compatible with adjacent contributing properties and open space. Item G says that the rhythm of projections, the relationship of entrances, porches, and other projections to streets and sidewalks shall be guided by the streetscape provided by adjacent and visually related structures and open spaces. H states that the choice of material, texture, and color for the facade of the structure should relate attractively to and be tempered by the predominant material, texture, and color of adjacent and visually related structures, and that simplicity is preferred. I included this one specifically because of the metal panel color selection that they've selected seems to be highly reflective. So that's something for the commissioners to consider. And item I states that the structure's roof shape is a major distinguishing visual element. Generally, a simple roof shape in form and type to adjacent and visually related roofs is appropriate. And particularly item L, which just states that a structure with frontage on more than one street or alley resulting in multiple facades shall require application of compatibility standards to each facade. I think that's. And I see Commissioner Sullivan is here.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yeah.
welcome.
Apologies for my delay.
Did you catch all that, or are you caught up?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do we have the same applicants, and you're all sworn? Is that correct?
Doctor, Commissioner Decker, I have a few other applicants to add: Marion Perez, Dan Erlinson, and Mario Rico.
All right. Do we all three of us, wherever we are, swear or affirm the testimony you will give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. What has the applicant to add to this? And then we'll go to our comments.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. And thank you again to the commission for hearing us. As you'll remember, this submission was conceptually approved back in August of 2020 by the commission. So I want to talk a little bit about the process here because I know our submission was really heavy and had a lot of information. So we're requesting approval of the new construction elevations and materials for the project. We have also submitted plans for lighting, landscape, and signage locations to make this a complete application and preview those for you for reaction and comment in the spirit of a collaborative process. But really the only piece we're actually seeking approval on tonight is the materials and elevations. So if we could focus there, we would prefer that. I think it sounds like you guys might do, or at least Sarah. And then if time permits, after review of the elevations and materials, if you have comments that you're willing to share on lighting and landscaping, we would love to hear that. And then we can incorporate those comments for when we come back. And then we will come back at a future date with a full signage package, but have also showed you some possible locations and signage types that we're looking at. So now to talk really about the elevations and materials. So the project has been further refined as we've proceeded from schematic designs now into construction drawings. As you can see, the building has really remained largely the same as the conceptual approval. So we have done some refinement on our end on materials, and that's a process that we have been working on. And as Sarah mentioned, we don't have all the details fully ironed out, but a lot of essentially what we're showing, what we showed in the conceptual approval is still what we're carrying forward in terms of the aesthetic and the vision. We do want you to be aware, for materials, we have provided brochures, cut sheets, necessary information that was requested either by Sarah at the business meeting, but we are looking at an alternate metal vendor for the metal panel. So the product is actually installed at the Uncommon project at High End 7th. So, which is great because we can all, pull up Google Maps or drive by it. But the products are virtually the same. They're both metal panels. So we just want your input to understand what you think. We'd like to have the option to go with either. It's a competitive market, and we're talking to both vendors just to be transparent. And we've actually made a change based on Sarah's comments that we are now just showing that wood look metal panel at the roof terrace. So it's a very small area, and it might not even really be visible from the street. So we're hoping that might be an acceptable change. Outside of that, we've included section cut that shows the transition from one material to the next as requested by the commission. We are also showing a section cut for the balconies that give a little bit more information there. I want to talk a little bit about the windows and doors for the balconies. So we heard Sarah's feedback on the HPO approved list. So right now, we are looking to proceed with the Marvin Elevate line. This was formerly the Integrity Wood Ultrex, which was HPO approved. We're looking at that and moving that direction for the balcony doors. So that should be fine because it's on the approved list unless you have further comments. We would also like to proceed with the Marvin Essential line for the windows. So we made this adjustment from Pella. It's a little bit different than the Elevate line. They both had the fiberglass exteriors, but the Essential line has the fiberglass interior. So that's an adjustment we've made since coming to the business meeting. And then there, you know, as I mentioned, we have fully developed the balconies on the project, so you have cut sheets and dimensions on those. Since the conceptual approval, we've eliminated all but one rooftop terrace. The remaining rooftop terrace will be on the southeast side of the project towards the kind of the hustle and bustle of the short north. And other than that, I think we have stayed pretty consistent. I did address, since we're on this north elevation, I think Commissioner Jacker, you mentioned that you thought maybe the brick had gone a little bit higher than it was in the past. But it has not. It has stayed at that level. And what we did is eliminate that rooftop that we were showing on the north elevation. So it just appears slightly different if you look at one elevation side by side, the conceptual to this one.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But that's all I had. Frank, did you want to share anything on your end?
No, I think you covered it. Thanks.
All right. Before
Chair,
we get
we do have two speakers too. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to point out before we get there that the conceptual approval you're referring to was limited to height, floors, and footprint. And nothing else was approved at any time. This is all, and moreover, it was pretty clear in our discussions with the city attorney that a conceptual approval does not restrict the commission in any way when it comes time to dealing with a certificate of appropriateness. So we need not to let this shiny object of a concept approval confuse things. All right. Who's up here for the community comments?
We have Bill and Lisa Wood. So whoever wants to go first, we'll get 3 minutes each. And I apologize if I have to cut you off, but I have my timer.
I will let the Woods decide who goes first.
I'll go.
Yes, sir.
I'm Bill Wood. I live at 41 West 2nd Avenue.
And you're still under oath. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Jack. I've lived here for 36 years now. The Short North Design Guidelines, which we seem to, and welcome to the new commissioners. We appreciate everything you're going to do for us to keep the neighborhood the way we all love it. The Short North Design Guidelines were codified by the city of Columbus. That means that they're law. If we read the guidelines, this building is so far out of proportion to what should be approved that it shouldn't ever have even come up for discussion. But that being said, we were promised on the High Street corridor when they put all these 150-foot buildings along High Street, that once they got inside High Street, off of High Street, the buildings would be smaller, shorter, and that they would descend as they would step down as they went into the neighborhood. That was great. There have been two instances only where developments started inside off of High Street. One is the Wood Project on Park Street that starts out at 80 feet and goes down to 50 feet. And the other is the Pizzuti project that happens to be right across the street from this project that starts out at 67 feet and goes down to 20 feet. They were, as we were told, this is for years and years and years, that buildings would be shorter as they went into the neighborhood. And there is precedent with that. We have those two projects. We now have the Hoffman project, which is at 87 or 89 feet and extends 300 feet into the neighborhood without any kind of stepping down at all. It's unconscionable that this is allowed to have gone this far without him being told to make it the way that we were promised, the neighborhood people were promised that developments that were off High Street were going to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Lisa? Where are you, Lisa?
I don't think I have anything different to say outside of that. This is
Hang on. If you're going to say anything, I need to swear you. You swear or affirm the testimony you'll give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please.
I would just be repeating Bill as far as that building should have been taken to the neighborhood as we were originally promised. Since I didn't get to talk about the last part, real quick, I want to talk about the property 37 West 2nd, that there's been no mention of how that's going to be developed, and that there's been a window open for 4 years on the 3rd floor. So somebody needs to address that building as well. That's all. Just try to be fair to the neighborhood.
Thank you. I myself am curious as to how 37 West 2nd fits into this whole picture. Maybe someone from the applicant can enlighten us.
At this point, we're not doing anything with it. We're going to come back as a separate application. To be honest, we just haven't figured it out. It's going to stay a house. That's been Brett's intention. We talked about that, I believe, over the summer. So when we are ready, we'll come back on the house.
All right. Discussion. Oh, by the way, do you have anything to say about our friends, the chimney swifts, or that whole issue before, which is outside of our jurisdiction, but Mr. Wood raised the issue.
Yeah, thank you. Really quickly, thank you, Lisa and Bill. You've been, good neighbors and alerting me when things are going on, and we appreciate that. We did talk to the USDA Wildlife Services, and once you put a cap on a chimney, for instance, as long as it's not within the migrating season, chimney swifts actually just find a new chimney to habitat in. So they assured us that would be the course of action for these chimney swifts. That's just the way they work. So we did cap it though, so we do not have to worry about them being in the building when we go to demolish it.
I do also want to add, and I appreciate, Bill, what you said. Thanks for those comments previously. We, unlike maybe some historical examples that were used earlier in this call, we will be using all appropriate methods for removing the asbestos in the building. We know there's a lot of asbestos in the building, and that's a big part of the rehab cost.
Thank you. That's taken care of, or at least address the issues that the commission does not have jurisdiction over. The commissioners have, does someone want to weigh in about this application and what to do about it? This is a lot on one plate for 20 minutes.
I have a question on materials. You mentioned, Jessica, the Uncommon building, so I pulled it up. There seems to be two different kind of gray tones on that building. is the metal material that's proposed in this application one of those two, and which one, or is it a totally different color sheen combo?
A different color, so it would be very similar to what we've submitted with the Reno bond, a silver, and we're working on getting samples so that would match, and then of course, you know, we could come back showing. I don't know how we do it virtually, but showing those samples at least for a staff approval.
Yeah, I think it's very important that the commission is ultra comfortable with the sheathing for this building. The wrong sheathing could result in, it's a real make or break issue for this project, it seems to me.
Yeah, from what I can remember, Jack, the public speakers and neighbors that spoke over the summer were actually kind of looking for something that was more reflective so that it would look like the sky. And that's why I think the applicant kind of went in that direction.
That's correct. Yep. If you remember, we had looked at a much darker option, maybe this time last year. And that was, we updated it based on feedback.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, when we see the wood building that faces the park, reflection always helps the skyline and massing to go away.
what do you guys think of the Moxie? That quasi-aluminum thing in back of that's the taller element of the Moxie building. It's not really reflective, it's matte, but it's aluminum, so it picks up the surrounding colors without, you know, actually reflecting them in a way that could blind a batter during a ball game if the sun were in the wrong position.
I find the Moxie's a bad example because I think it basically reveals its massing all in one. There's no dance going on there between the environment, the skyline, clouds, anything. It is what it is.
No, I'm not asking about the execution of it. I'm asking about the material that they used on the taller.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not reflective enough to reflect anything, and all you see are all those stories and all the massing. It doesn't take on any different color.
Okay.
But I do agree with you. I think that the sheathing, the overcoat of this building, it is important. And I think the amount of material that we have to look at, we have to be very diligent in looking at it, because now that I look at the Lux, I think we really didn't look very closely, and that's just a big brick clad box. And I don't think we were successful in that one at all.
So what are your thoughts in comparison to the White Castle building, if you were to use that as an example?
I think the White Castle building was one of our first ventures, Thomas, into sheathing, and that's why we should look into it a little bit better. I think the White Castle building is nice. I think it's a very architecturally interesting building. I think the sheathing could have been done a little bit better, and maybe the material altered.
Thank you for that.
We don't all necessarily agree on approach all of the time here on this commission, Thomas. So
the comparison is what I was looking for there. So thank you.
So Thomas, if you look at the wood building, it's at 131 Lincoln. Is that the new building on Buttolston High? If you look at the back of that building and you look at the skyline of Goodale, and you see the reflection as well as the other wood product down the street, they use truly reflective materials on the upper layers of that building. And you'd be hard pressed on any given day to say that that is a fixed structure it changes with the weather and sun and reflection, which I think is very nice.
Oh, absolutely. I see exactly what you're saying when I compare the Lux building as well as these others that you're mentioning. So thank you.
Yep.
And I agree with you, by the way.
You don't have to agree. That's why we're here, for discussion.
No, I pay close attention to what you're describing when I think about the various structures in the neighborhood, and you know, you describe it exactly as I would deem it.
And we had a very, very long laundry list of issues that were presented, and then staff is recommending that we set another long laundry list of issues aside.
So I think the
we
discussion
ought
Jack,
to
is
just plow through this and see how far we can get without voting yet.
I think it would be nice to actually do, instead of this plowing stuff, make an organizational structure of like things or things that have true interplayer interaction, and start breaking it down and just saying, okay, this group we're going to look at, this group we're going to look at, this group we're going to look at, and this group we're going to look at. I mean, Kaufman has to be okay with doing that, but you know, this is just a lot of information to digest, and I don't even like the word plow, because that's exactly what we'll end up doing, is plowing through it. And I know, as far as myself, I have time limits on how much time I can spend on this stuff. So what do you other commissioners think? And what does the applicant think? And I think Sarah did a very good job in her assessment and what the department did and reviewed and actually put together. So what do you guys think?
I would agree from that standpoint. So I think that's my concern too as well. It's kind of being able to break it down. I would agree with you in terms of your assessment of everything that you guys have talked to, as well as you know, the organizational structure related to you know, Sarah's ability of being able to digest the information maybe was initially sent, you know, our business meeting, you know, kind of coordination discussion, and then the follow-up. So I think that being able to try to at least get some definites, I think would help. I know me, I think that when we talk about exterior materials and things of that nature, I think that's the biggest kind of piece to this, is understanding the exterior materials and what they are going to be, and how that execution of that is, you know, that's really going to play into the success of the building. I kind of keep bringing up water management strategies because I know that the concept is very clean and simple, but at the same time, that's challenging to execute. So, and that has nothing to do with the team that's in front of us. It's just, I think that that's something that we owe the project and the community from that standpoint, is to kind of be a little bit more rigorous in the things that we're asking for that we might have come up short on maybe some earlier reviews of some other projects. So I don't feel that maybe the information that is provided is at the level of detail that I would want to see. There are things that materialities of soffits and transitions of those kind of materials that are just not called out as of yet. So I'm not sure when that information is going to be available, but I think being able to break it down, because I am an advocate of being able to move things forward, but at the same time, I think that we owe that sense of rigor of review as part of the process. I do have a hard stop at 6 o'clock as well, so I just wanted to make sure that I at least offered some feedback before I had to go.
I also want to say I agree with Sean wholeheartedly, and I have no intention of holding up and going into minutia. But if we organize these things, and I'm not even adverse to some kind of structure that Kaufman and the office can put together, so we can quickly go through these things if they're organized and the information is there, whether that's, you know, within a business meeting or something. I'm fine pushing this stuff along, but I want it to be focused I want it to be digested so we can get into that detail as Sean was talking about. It doesn't have to be a lot of this back and forth and question and question and question and more detail and more detail. I think if we set these parameters and our expectations on both sides at the beginning, this last tail piece of this building is going to go a lot quicker than the first part did.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I agree with both of you, but a water management strategy may or may not be something that's severable like lighting and landscaping is from the rest of the design. So I don't think that we ought to, the number of things that we push off for later needs to be small and severable.
May I comment?
I think that's exactly what I'm seeing, Jack. Is I would completely echo that. I think if the list is long as of right now, so it seems like it's unfair to the project as well as the community to, so to speak, push that ahead. I think what myself and Jeff are asking for is, what is the process to be able to digest some of these, to whittle the list down, so then that way the team continues to move forward. We get the appropriate review in response to how their progress is so to speak, taking shape.
Exactly. I'm sorry to cut you off. Aaron was trying to butt in. Be heard. Aaron, yes, ma'am. Where are you?
I think it was Jessica that was trying to speak.
Oh, it was me with Kaufman.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I want to be respectful of everybody's cutoff, but we agree. It's a lot of information. We understand. So I think if you guys are amenable, we would prefer to have the materials at the very least be some sort of subcommittee approval, and then maybe a staff approval for these other items, or a subcommittee approval. But Sarah and I could draft up a plan on what exactly that looks like here in the next day or two, and then if you all and Sarah is in agreement, then we can outline a process on how to break these down and spend the correct amount of time on it without having to drag this out further, and this constant back and forth, which I know can be difficult. So we would be okay with that as well.
Does that make sense so that everyone else, including Sarah, for the applicant and Sarah, to try to come up with kind of an outline of what the issues are and how they're logically grouped together?
I'm happy to work with the applicant to figure out how to move forward. I know that getting your feedback on what you need to see in each little bit will be really helpful. I also know that we are trying not to have special meetings, so we want to make sure that we can make this all fit into commission hearings if possible. But yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely happy to work with the applicant and figure out, how to move this forward.
It may take more than one. I think you need to keep an eye on what our docket looks like and how much time we'll have to give to this. And if we have less than an hour to give to the Kaufman case, we ought to look at a special meeting. So we can take that up. We can take that up later.
So technically, the hearings can be up to 3 hours. So that's why I was hopeful we'd be able to get through some of this today. But I understand that commissioners have a hard stop.
Yeah, we were all lured into a sense of complacency by our short-looking agenda. All right, so we have a plan, sort of. Does anybody else have any other suggestions for how we move forward between now and the next time we look at this?
I mean, I have all the faith in Sarah and Jessica to pull something together and present it to us, and I'm sure it will figure it out. I mean, it's just a matter of making sure that everyone's on the same page and we can go through this and make, good decisions so it's a win-win situation all the way around.
Can I name a subcommittee of Hissam and Conyers? Mr. Sullivan, your time is coming to be available to work with Sarah and the applicant to organize this stuff if they have any questions.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Very well. Do we have a motion to continue and to appoint a subcommittee of Conyers and Hissam to consult with staff and the applicant to organize our issues for the next meeting?
So moved.
Who's that? Siwo?
Yes.
Thank you, Tom. Second.
Second.
Hissom, seconds. Further discussion. Moriarty. Aaron?
Yes.
Yes. Hissom.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Conyers.
Yes.
Decker, yes. We all agree. The application is continued, and I think that concludes our business, does it not?
Yeah, there's nothing else from me.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Very well. We are adjourned, folks. Have a good evening. Stay warm. Get your
Much
shots.
appreciated.
Thanks all.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.